says, Johnny Depp, best friend for 40 years, says, Johnny is a romantic person. Please take a listen to this.
It was going on. It wasn't like crazy rock and roll house. No, it was just, But I wouldn't call it abuse.
What word would you use instead of abuse?
Getting high.
What? Oh.
Getting high.
Okay. Getting high on cocaine?
Yeah, once in a while, if I saw it, I've handful of times I saw it. I don't think he liked to do it in front of me.
Did you ever observe forgetfulness in Mr. Depp after he'd been drinking or using substances?
Forgetfulness? No, I think that he's got a pretty good memory, but, my personal experience with him, no.
Did Mr. Depp's drugs or alcohol ever impact the band when you were bandmates or its music performances?
We were all young. No, we were kids. We all did bad stuff there.
Right. We all do bad stuff when you're a kid.
Are you aware of Mr. Depp achieving any period of sobriety during the years that you've known him?
Yeah.
And when was that?
It's hard for me to... it was right around... We'd have to look it up when he did Lone Ranger. He seemed really kind of focused and wasn't drinking. I went to visit him. I believe it was New Mexico. Amber was there. Everything was different. He was proud of it. He wasn't drinking. And I think he was smoking a little weed, but that was it.
And do you remember about what year that was?
Feeling it's 2013, but I'd have to look to see when Lone Ranger was.
Is there a time that you believe that Mr. Depp needed help with substance abuse?
As a friend, yeah.
And do you know who Dr. Kipper is?
Oh, yeah.
And what do you know about Dr. Kipper in relation to Mr. Depp?
I don't have a strong opinion of Dr. Kipper, but I'll be honest as I can. He was a doctor brought on, I believe, to help him get sober. He was a sober doctor. And I believe he had a nurse with Johnny and a nurse with Amber at the time. I thought it was a scam. I thought it was a complete ripoff. But that's just me.
Please bring up Exhibit 3.
So it means...
okay, does this look like a true and accurate copy of this exchange?
Yeah.
And regarding the lines, I'm real worried about him and this Dr. Kipper. What did you mean by that?
Like I said, I didn't trust this guy.
And were you ever worried about Mr. Depp's health?
Yeah, I would be. I love the guy. I didn't know what he was taking, but they just both seemed like zombies.
And why were you concerned?
Just because I saw how he looked and know what he's going through, and so yeah, I was concerned, but couldn't get back in there to try and help.
Were you nervous for him in relation to drugs and alcohol?
Yes.
So you did have some health concerns or not?
Well, yeah. Like I said, we're not as young as we used to be, and there was a part during that time that he was hitting it pretty hard. You could tell, and I just didn't want anything to happen to him.
And those concerns related to Mr. Depp's health?
Yeah.
And they related to Mr. Depp's drug and alcohol use?
Yes.
Back to Kipper for a moment. Do you know if when Dr. Kipper prescribed drugs, would Mr. Depp also take anything else besides that? For example, would Mr. Depp drink alcohol or use other drugs in addition to prescription drugs from 2011 to 2016?
The answer would be yes. It just seemed odd to me that there was weed and wine and a soberness. Didn't make sense to me.
And has Amber been nice to you since you've met her?
Amber was always very nice to me, yes.
And would you consider Mr. Depp to be a romantic person?
Yeah, I think so.
And why do you say that?
Just by the way I've seen him act, you know.
And have you noticed a certain intensity of Mr. Depp's relationships?
Yes.
And have you ever observed Mr. Depp exhibit any jealousy when he's been in a
As a
relationship?
human being,
Yes.
you're jealous.
And do you remember when?
I go all the way back to my sister-in-law. I mean, you can definitely have a jealous streak in him.
Do you remember any specific examples?
You know, when he was younger, he was jealous of Nick Cage or jealous of Adam Ant because my sister-in-law knew them.
And was besides that initial time period, did he ever tell you about any jealousy with any other women or any other times?
Yeah. You know, he brought up a few with Vanessa, which were ridiculous. A lot of it was in his head and not in reality. You know what I mean?
And what about with Amber? Did you ever encounter any talk from JD of jealousy with respect to Amber?
Yeah, there were a couple mentions if she was doing a movie with some guy or stuff like that.
In terms of jealousy, would anything make Mr. Depp more bothered or less bothered?
Like I said, if she was on a film or doing something that he couldn't be around it to see what was going on, I think he'd work himself up, you know.
Can we please bring up Exhibit 6? And the very top line, if you can see that, Mr. Whitkin.
Right.
Your name is in the participants column, and him or Mr. Depp is in the from column.
Right.
It's dated February 4th, 2014. Did Mr. Depp ever tell you that he had a big fight with Amber at any time?
He would mention when shit was rough, yeah. You know, they were having issues, yeah, he would mention it.
Do you have any personal knowledge of observing Mr. Depp and Mr. Manson together?
Yeah, but you can't blame somebody's drug abuse on somebody else. But yeah, him and
Right.
Manson would hit
You
it pretty
can't
hard as
blame
well.
somebody's drug abuse on somebody else.
And they would, by hit it hard, they would do.
They would drink and smoke weed. I don't know if I ever saw Manson do blow, but I would assume that he did. He's done everything else.
Okay, but you would see them drink together.
Yeah. I worked with them both on a few things, so
Let's go to Exhibit 8, please.
yeah.
We can see that it's the same date. It's February 3rd, 2014. Text exchange between you and Amber. And you have a
I have a vague memory of him hanging at Manson's house for a couple days.
do you know what kind of professional help more specifically?
I mean, yeah, to kind of clean up. I mean, he tried to clean up a couple times, and he did. I think he needed that, and he needed therapy. And I recommended that to him. He did it a little bit, but then he stopped. Because, in my experience, it's deep-rooted issues that he's dealing with. It has nothing to do with that. That's my opinion.
Okay. So you were referring to two types of professional help there. One was therapy and one was cleaning up for drugs. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Could we please bring up Exhibit 9? So this is actually a continuation of that same date exchange for February 3rd, 2014. And I'll give you a minute to read it. They're text between you and Amber.
All right.
Do you think that you were going over there out of concern?
I mean, obviously, she was concerned, so I was concerned, and you know, going to Manson's would have been interesting because I don't know if he would have left. But I was trying to get there. I know it looks like I was trying to get through the mansion and find out where they were.
Okay. Can we pull up Exhibit 10, please? Do you remember this exchange as sort of part of the continuation?
As a friend, you should be concerned. As friends, you have to be concerned for your friends. And he definitely loved Johnny Depp, and he was very, very concerned about him. He wanted to make sure that he's doing very well. That's why he recommended him therapy, which he went for a short time. And he also never trusted Mr. Kepper, his lawyer, his doctor. So he has the right to be concerned as friends. You gotta be concerned for your friend and stuff like that. Yeah. Thanks everyone for tuning to this, and thank you for watching this.